Hi guys, welcome and who dat? I'm Joe, and today I'm going to be bringing you a much delayed review of this past weekend's Week 11 matchup between the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams and our beloved, bless you boys, in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints win this one 27 to 20. In my preview, I would say it would take a miracle, and I think we may have witnessed the miracle. The Saints now climb to 4-7. So yeah, the Saints are still in the thick of things in their division. This team's going to have to play out of their heads for the rest of the season to be competitive. But this game, we did see a very complete game, probably the most complete game by the team. Definitely the best effort from our play callers, especially Pete Carmichael. This is my opinion, but I think it was very obvious. We had a game plan. We went in there and executed, and everything worked out in our favor. So we'll break down the stats real quick, and then I'll get into some more commentary about this game. Here are the stats. Andy Dalton. This was not only his highest quarterback rating in his career, it was also his highest completion percentage to finish a game. Dare I say, Andy Dalton had the best game of his career. 21 of 25, 260 yards, three touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles. He was getting rid of the ball very quickly. I believe he got rid of the ball in under 2 seconds on 12 plays, and he completed 11 of those. So, this is the difference between Dalton and Winston to me. If you're going to call this kind of game where your offensive line is in shambles and your quarterback has to get rid of the ball fast, I don't know if Jameis Winston is capable of doing that. I just don't know. I've never seen him do that. When I watch Jameis Winston play, I watch a man who takes 4 to 5 seconds to get rid of the ball. And that could have never been effective in this game. I know a lot of people are sick of Andy Dalton and they want Jameis Winston back. This is a big promise on what Jameis Winston could be. It's not reflecting on what Jameis Winston has done and what Andy Dalton has done and thinking Jameis Winston can do a better job. You hope he can do a better job, and you know he's a more talented player. But all of that is just wishing in one hand. So all I can say is, as much as I thought Winston should be the starter in this past game, after the performance Dalton put up, not to mention the play calling, which is the most important thing. Um, you may have to hold your breath on Winston for just a little while longer because that was a great game for Dalton. He was the MVP of the game, believe it or not. Um, he was sacked 3 times. Taysom Hill got under center a few times as well. He was one of three for 14 yards, and he was also sacked once. Now, this was the best game called by Carmichael because we stayed honest with the run, even though it wasn't extremely effective. We didn't abandon it. We let Taysom Hill have about 17 plays, and that was pretty good. And that's the kind of thing we're looking for. This offense has to be called a certain way, it seems, for this team to move. We have to run the ball. We have to stay committed to the run. We have to have short passes, get the ball out quick, and we have to have a good mix of Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill ends up our leading rusher. He had 9 carries for 52 yards. That's an average of 5.8 yards a carry. Alvin Kamara had a solid game. He only averaged 3.5 yards per carry, but he had 12 carries for 42 yards. So altogether, 24 carries for the Saints, 88 rushing yards. The production was okay, but it was the commitment to the run that mattered in the end. Receiving, Chris Olave, 5 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown. He was targeted 6 times. This was a solid game from Olave. He is definitely not a rookie, even though he's a rookie. He's one of the best receivers in the league, and we are lucky to have him. Juwan Johnson at tight end continues to make an impact in the receiving game. He was targeted 4 times. He caught 3 balls for 47 yards and a touchdown. This is his 5th touchdown in 5 weeks. Juwan Johnson leads the team in receiving touchdowns right now. Alvin Kamara had 4 catches on 5 targets for 47 yards. Juwan or Jarvis Landry. Now he's backing in the swing of things. It feels like he was targeted 4 times. He had 3 catches for 33 yards and a touchdown. Juice finally gets a touchdown as a Saint. He kept that ball, and he also recovered the onside kick in the end of the game, and I believe he may have kept that ball as well. So glad this game was in a dome because we need a good performance in our home stadium. We really do. And hey, couple in a row now, right? Adam Troutman targeted 3 times. He caught 3 of them, only 12 yards. David Johnson, backup running back, had 1 catch for 11 yards on 1 target. Taysom Hill was targeted once. He caught it for 8 yards. Rashid Shaheed had a ton of plays. He lined up and ran routes on a lot of plays in this game, but he was only targeted twice. He caught one for 8 yards. Marcus Callaway had 1 catch on 1 target for 6 yards. So the ball was spread around quite a bit here. 9 different receivers. As I said before, Andy Dalton, 84% completion. Everyone conceded that Dalton had a good game, but half the people that reviewed this game still insisted that we needed to go back to Winston. You guys are wishing that Winston is going to turn into something that he really hasn't shown. Last year, he showed a little bit of it. And I would definitely say that our offense was not explosive last year, although we were winning and Jameis was being very effective. It wasn't an explosive offense. Um, the offense struggled mightily last year, especially after Winston got hurt. We don't have backups like Trevor Siemian coming in or Taysom Hill trying to run at quarterback for the entire game, or Ian Book. We have Andy Dalton. Now, Andy Dalton's not great, but he's better than all those other guys. Andy Dalton is a solid quarterback. I didn't know how much he had left in the tank, but this was the best game that I've seen by him ever in my life. And if we can call games like this and this guy can manage this team the way he did, getting the ball out fast, not turning it over, spreading the ball around, but it all depends on play calling. It all goes back to play calling. If you put Andy Dalton in a situation like you put him in the 2 weeks prior to this game, you're going to see an ineffective quarterback and an ineffective offense. And when Jameis Winston was quarterback for the first 3 games, he was injured. But I think a lot of his failure also had to do with the play calling and Pete Carmichael not designing a game plan that benefited Winston. It didn't feel that way. Maybe Carmichael did call a decent game and Winston just tried to take the top off every time. I don't know. Well, I'm not here to fight with anybody. I see a lot of videos saying Winston should be our starter anyway. I'm saying don't look a gift horse in the mouth and give credit where credit is due. The man had a fantastic game. Kudos to the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. I think his most impressive uh, difference in this game was how he performed in the red zone. And it also goes back to play calling because we did use Taysom Hill and Kamara in the game a lot in this game. We saw them in the red zone as well. When you have Taysom Hill lined up at quarterback and he's doing a run option with Kamara. I mean, that just sounds like a nightmare for the opposing defenses. So I hope we keep seeing a lot of that. Let's talk about the defense real quick. The stud of the game, Caden Ellis. Caden Ellis is taking Pete Werner's place right now. Ellis is slotted as our starting Sam linebacker, but we hardly ever play the Sam. We usually have the middle and the will out there. Pete being our outstanding defensive MVP at will. He's hurt. He's going to be out for a while. He had the surgery, but he may come back before the year's over, but he's out for now. And Cedric Ellis has played that spot. Caden Ellis has played that spot very well in the last 2 weeks. He led the team with 11 total tackles. He had 1.5 sack. He had a pass defense. He even got in on another one. Ellis is playing out of his brains right now. A lot of people think that he's just coming out of nowhere. Well, this is Ellis's fourth year with the team. And the majority of the time that we saw Ellis prior to this year was a spot duty here and there, but mostly in preseason. The man stood out every time he was on the field. The whole time we've had him. Andrew Dowell has done a good job at linebacker for us in spot duty as a backup, but Ellis always shone when he was on the field. The coaches make decisions, they do what they have to do. They really wanted Zach Bond to be that starting Sam. They realized this year Cedric Ellis should have that job. And now Ellis is showing that he's very capable of starting and playing in the league. Now, he's done it twice. He's done it against relatively weak offensive lines, but his ability to rush the passer and his ability to cover is pretty impressive. Demario Davis had 8 total tackles and a half a sack. Carl Granderson had his best game as a Saint, 7 total tackles, including 1.5 sacks. Granderson was all over the field today in this game. Now, the offensive line for the Rams isn't very strong. I have to keep emphasizing this. When the Saints put it all together like we did, it looks really good. You have to remind yourself this wasn't a very good team, but you expect to beat the really bad teams. Tyrann Mathieu had 6 total tackles and a pass defense. Paulson Adebo had 5 total tackles and a tackle for a loss. Alontae Taylor was great in coverage. He had 5 total tackles, 1 for a loss, or a pass defense, pardon me. David Onyemata had 5 total tackles. This is his first game in a while without a sack. Chris Harris Jr. was beaten in coverage a couple of times. He also held up in coverage a couple of times, and those plays don't stand out because he did his job and, no reception was made. The deal was the Rams had Tyler Higbee at tight end, probably their biggest weapon in this game. He was targeted 8 times in the game, but he only caught 4 balls. We had Ellis cover him a couple of times, but for the majority of the game, it was Harris covering him. So not terrible, but when he got beat, he got beat. Everyone saw it. Harris finishes with 1 pass defense. Marcus May had 3 total tackles. Shy Tuttle had 3 total tackles, including a pass defense. Backup defensive end Jabari Zuniga had 2 total tackles. This guy just got back on the team, I guess because Marcus Davenport might miss some time. Don't know if we're going to bring this guy up again, but yeah, he kind of comes out of nowhere. He'd been on our practice squad and he had been on the team for a second, but we literally just re-signed him and put him in the game. And 2 tackles. Peyton Turner, sadly, after having a great play, tackle for a loss, a quarterback hit. He gets up to celebrate, and a player falls on him. He hurts his ankle. Not sure how long Turner's going to be out. The x-rays, though, were negative. And Passanio also had a tackle and a half a sack. So, defense looks pretty solid here. We allowed 148 yards on the ground, and that sounds pretty bad on 30 carries. 148 yards on the ground is not going to cut it for this run defense. We've had a couple of games in a row now where we've looked awful on run defense. This game was slightly better, not as good as it needs to be. We knocked Matthew Stafford out of the game very late in the third quarter. Matthew Stafford was having an okay game. We only sacked him once, but we hit him a few times. And the second time he got hit, they were backed up against their own end zone. And he got hit that second time, and he had to go in the tent. He never came back in the game. Now, he was the quarterback for the majority of the third quarter, and the Rams went scoreless in that third quarter. That third quarter was where we won the game. We scored 14 points. We hold them to nothing with Matthew Stafford in the game, and then he gets hurt. Their backup quarterback comes in, and he is a mobile guy, Bryce Perkins. So the first couple of plays he was in the game, he decided to take off running once and got like 21 yards. And this is not the kind of quarterback that we were practicing to go up against. This is actually the kind of quarterback we struggle against. And when this guy came in the game, I'm sure nationally as well as a few people locally were saying once the third string quarterback comes in, you should win this game. I was thinking this was the time when the Rams might actually turn it around with this guy. But he couldn't run around and keep the running game going. They were down by 10 points. They had to do something. Eventually, Perkins was forced to play regular quarterback and try to throw the ball down the field, and that's where they ended up really losing the game. He got sacked 3 times. Once he had to become a real quarterback, they managed 3 total points in that fourth quarter, six points in that fourth quarter, to pull it within 7. But that was at the very end of the game. They tried an onside kick, it didn't work. The Saints, on the other hand, scored every quarter, including that dominant third quarter. All I can say is that if Pete Carmichael can continue to scheme up a game plan like this for the players to perform the way they did, and for the play calling to work the way it did, um, pretty impressive. What I liked about the play calling the most is we tried to throw the ball with Hill. We put Hill in the game a lot early, and we tried to throw the ball with him a few times. That kept their defense honest. So every time Hill was in the quarterback position, they had to be honest about him throwing the ball. And it's because we did it early in the game. He wasn't completing the passes. He was only 1 of 3. But once he completed 1, that was it. Every time Hill was at quarterback from then on out, those safeties stayed back. Those cornerbacks stayed honest. And then Hill was able to really take off running. What I think the next evolution of Taysom Hill at quarterback needs to be where he has more options, where he can drop back to pass, look around. If your first read's not there, take off. If you can, take off. Hill hasn't exhibited that. He hasn't shown he can be a scrambling quarterback. He just is a power runner. And he's got, you know, it seems when he's in the pocket, he has a lack of mobility. Because I think Sean Payton was emphasizing on him being a better pocket quarterback. And I think that's the one thing missing from Taysom's game. He needs to be able to recognize and take off running when he can. This was complimentary football for the Saints. We still have to clean up a bunch of stuff. Our run defense for starters. Our third down offense. We weren't great. We were only 4 of 11. Our third down defense was great, 5 of 14 for the Rams, but we were only 4 of 11. So we still have to clean up third down offense. We still have to clean up that run defense. Okay, and also, we gave up a few big plays. In the red zone, we were 2 of 4. As long as we can get in the red zone 4, 5, or 6 times, and we can come away with field goals, then the offense is producing. Once in the red zone, we struggle. Well, we got 2 touchdowns out of it, and they were, from Andy Dalton, which was impressive to me. We allowed 1 touchdown on 2 red zone visits by the Rams. Time of possession was pretty split, 31-29 in favor of the Saints. But where we looked great and where we seemed to clean up a bunch was we didn't turn the ball over, and we only committed 2 penalties. Now, this is the lowest penalty output for us for the season. I got to give credit to the referees on this one for letting both teams play because there were only 8 penalties called. Like I said, the Saints only committed 2. So if you're only going to commit 2 penalties and you're not going to turn the ball over, you win time of possession, you commit to the run, and your quarterback plays out of his brains, and you have a great game plan that's executed, then you can win a ball game. We won this one 27-20 against a pretty bad team, and it seemed like with all of these things coming together, we should have really dominated. And it was a domination. We had a big lead on them for a while. So, but you have to look at the competition, the Rams. Not great. All of this had to come together for us to win this game, and we win by 7. But like I say, we couldn't stop the run, and we couldn't convert on third downs, and we didn't force any turnovers. But we didn't, commit any penalties either. So all of these things have to work. I mean, you have a couple things go against you, and then a game like this ends up closer than it needs to be. But that was the miracle. It's sad to see somebody get injured, and when Stafford went out and the third string quarterback comes in, your team has a little luck. You commit no penalties, you commit no turnovers, you control the ball, you commit to the run, your quarterback's ultra efficient, the receivers are catching the ball. All of this has to be working for you to win a game in the NFL. But I tell you, keep in mind this was the Rams. And yeah, they're not playing great ball right now. Next week, we're going to San Francisco. They are playing tremendous ball right now. The Rams were the number 4 defense in the league. This weekend, we're going up against the number 1 defense in the league. I will be doing a preview of this game. Until then, I'm working hard this week. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And let's celebrate this week with a win by our beautiful Bless You boys. I'll talk to you guys later. Subscribe to Rosenville 10 for more videos like this. Who dat?